Hey folks, Dave, the Not So Evil Viking 13 here to talk to you guys about Far Cry 4 and why I think it's one of the best sandbox shooters in recent years. If you like shooty bits and sneaky bits, you don't want to miss out on Far Cry 4. Almost 50 hours in, I have finally completed the game and most of the side quests, so let's break down why I enjoyed it so much.
I'm Batman.
In the background here, you guys are going to see some footage from my last few hours in-game as I headed towards the close of the campaign. This is a side mission where I have to defuse a couple of bombs, and this is a great example of the emergent sandbox gameplay and gunplay in Far Cry 4. My absolute favorite mode of combat in the game was definitely stealth, usually with the bow and arrow and the knife, but the game holds up really well once the crap hits the fan and you get spotted or things go wrong, and you can just dynamically adjust to that and change the flow of the combat. As much as I enjoyed the stealth, I never really was worried about getting caught except for one awful mission in the single player where getting caught was an instant failure for the mission. Generally, as you explored the open world, if you were caught in stealth, it just meant it was time to go loud and use some of your different weapons. So that's your background footage. Let's dive in. Now, I realize that it's been a long time since I posted anything Far Cry 4. That's not because I haven't been thoroughly enjoying the game, it's just because it took me a lot longer than I expected to complete it to my satisfaction. And in the interim time, a bunch of other games have come out, and my time has been divided. After getting so much enjoyment out of Far Cry 4 though, I felt like I couldn't just let it go by the wayside and just end it with the last few videos that I posted back in December. I really want to break this game down for you guys and share what you're missing if you haven't tried it yet. I'll start this breakdown by talking about my Far Cry history as I did in my original Far Cry 4 First Impressions video. I'm a big fan of the Far Cry series. I've been playing since the original, and in my opinion Far Cry 3 was one of my favorite open world shooters that I've ever played. If you guys know me and my channel, I am an absolute sucker for a good open world game, and Far Cry 3 was a great combination of a truly excellent storyline and some of the most interesting FPS characters that we've seen in a very long time, and of course great gunplay, some great vehicle action, if some imbalances like not getting some of the best weapons till right at the end of the game and stuff like that. Overall, Far Cry 3 was an excellent game. Far Cry 4, in comparison, definitely has a few weaknesses. Its characters are, for the most part, just as interesting, if not more so, for some of the side characters, but the storyline does leave a few things to be desired. The ending wasn't all that fantastic. There are not as many compelling reasons, I think, for your fighting in Far Cry 4 as there was in Far Cry 3. You're just kind of thrown into the action without a lot of character build-up or without a lot of motivation for your character, and that doesn't really change as things go along, but there are some interesting choices you can make along the way. You do meet a lot of other interesting side characters, and overall the storyline is good, if not up to the caliber that Far Cry 3 set, and that's really, I think, just because Far Cry 3 was such an excellent set of characters, and for me, just a very compelling storyline. Far Cry 4 doesn't quite match up to Far Cry 3's story, and that's okay. What Far Cry 4 does do better, and just across the board, is the in-between of the story. I think that the side quests, the weapon unlocks, and even the co-op all add so much to the gameplay experience. The weapon unlocks seem a lot more refined, you get more interesting weapons a lot earlier on, so you actually get to enjoy them as the campaign progresses. You have a number of really interesting side quests, and there's so much to discover on this map. The world is huge, and I really can't say enough about all the small touches that the level designers have put into the world. I mean, there's so much you can discover, and thanks to the addition of the rope climbing mechanic, You'll be doing some cave diving and climbing mountains, as well as just exploring some towns and forest and the usual stuff that you saw in Far Cry 3. Like I said though, what really makes Far Cry 4 a superior open world experience, in my opinion, compared to Far Cry 3, is that middle of the sandwich. All the open world exploration stuff. This is basically an open world game for ADD players. You can't go 15 feet without 3 things happening to distract you. An animal attack, an eagle screeching overhead, an armored convoy driving by, or someone asking for help to hunt food for their village. It's actually almost a little bit too much, and in some areas I think it actually is too much. There's just too much vying for your attention. But most of the time, the action is balanced enough where it doesn't feel overwhelming, and you just have so much to do. And that's actually why it took me so long to beat it. Even though the side quests follow your usual open world repetitive pattern, climb this tower, liberate this base without setting off any alarms, rescue these hostages, they're all in different, really interesting locations, and there's different sets of enemies. And as long as you don't stick to your same favorite weapons every single time, if you mix it up a bit, try different methods like using animals to attack bases, using elephants, using stealth, using rocket launchers, there's always a new way and a new place to complete your side missions. That, for me, is how they remain fresh throughout basically the entirety of the game. I had so much fun with the side quests that I did, I think, all of the hunting side quests. I liberated every single enemy outpost, and even took out all the radio towers, although the radio towers were more of just so I could find other side quests in the area. It's your classic Ubisoft, climb the tower to unlock things. Even the towers, though, got much more interesting near the end of the game. The first half of the map, by the end, I was getting really tired of just climbing these towers to unlock them. But in the northern areas, some of the towers actually became pretty good puzzles, and I found myself spending 10 or 12 minutes trying to figure out how to get up to the top. They were repetitive, but much more interesting as the end got closer. Now, as you guys know, I am basically only a PC gamer, at least for now, just because I've sunk so much money into my work computer and my YouTube computer that might as well enjoy playing games at, 2560 by 1440p. Which, by the way, is what this video is recorded and rendered in natively, if you guys can see that 1440p quality. So I did play this on my PC. I do want to give a fair shake to the technical issues that Far Cry 4 had at launch, and for some people continues to have. The game is not perfect. It had a slightly rough launch. I know that a lot of people had some severe stutter issues, and I actually had a bit of stutter when I first started playing the game. But for me, within a couple of weeks, a couple of patches had come out and the game was running much, much better. Joel, on the other hand, had stutter issues and frame rate issues and just a ton of problems with the game throughout his playthrough on PC, and he actually abandoned his PC playthrough and went to a PS4 version, which actually looks fantastic. They did a great job porting this game to the PS4. It retains a lot of the overall visual quality, just without some of the extra PC fancy features, resolutions, and frame rates. For Joel, though, who couldn't maintain a good frame rate without stutter, that didn't really matter on PC. On the other hand, though, my GTX 970 was able to run the game quite well, even at 2560 by 1440p. I ran the game at a frame rate that varied between a VSync 60 FPS and dips down to around 30 or so, but I was running the game on a mixture of high, very high, and even ultra settings on my PC. I even enabled all of the nVidia specific GameWorks options. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with nVidia GameWorks, it's kind of a program where they work with developers to help them utilize nVidia hardware for just little extra features that really aren't necessary for gameplay, but are cool to see. I'm not a fan of hardware-specific features in games, but I do like new technology, so I'm a bit divided on this one. I do hope that we'll see technology like this on AMD hardware in the future, and I know that AMD has done some unique things with their cards as well. I wanted to look at a couple of these things, though. First up, let's check out the God Rays. Now, you can turn God Rays off in the game, at which point it looks a bit flat. The kind of just lens flare of the sun doesn't look that amazing. It looks definitely very flat. You can turn on some very rough God rays for all hardware, which look pretty good, but the problem with the just simple God rays is they don't react accurately in shaded areas, creating kind of a foggy effect in the game. In fact, it makes a lot of the vistas kind of foggy too, which is weird. There's definitely some accuracy issues with the simple God rays. Now, the nVidia specific rendered God rays do some really nice work to the lighting in the shadows. The rays themselves look accurate, they react well, they look really good, even filtering through very fine details like the tree limbs, but you also have a nice even effect for the overall vistas as well. It's a much more accurate effect, although you do get quite a frame rate hit for using it. Other neat features include Far Cry's use of simulated fur. Now, animals are a huge part of the gameplay, and it's cool to see this extra effort put in to make the animals look a bit more convincing. Here's how it looks with the extra fur effects turned off completely. This gets you some performance, but the textures look, well, nicely detailed, just very flat. From there, you can then actually simulate fur effects, and this is how the game was for everyone at launch. This feature, I think, only showed up in the second or third patch, where you can then go a bit further and do nVidia simulated fur. This, I think, doesn't look as good from all angles. There are certain angles where this fur looks very strange and almost spaghetti-like, but on other angles, it looks far superior to the basic simulated fur and actually looks very convincing. Despite the couple angles where it looks bad, I still definitely prefer this nVidia specific fur method, and I hope to see more games using fur methods like this and the basic one, because it really does add a lot to how animal textures look. You don't get that kind of waxy, greasy, flat animal texture look when you have the ability to simulate these extra fur details on top. Finally, guys, I hope you're sitting down because this one is a game changer. Get ready for this. Far Cry, thanks to nVidia GameWorks, can simulate depth in tree bark textures. That's right, guys. No more lack of shading on those tree trunks. You can get super accurate lighting, shading, and bump effects on your tree trunks for all those times when you're not playing the game, but instead you're out studying trees. Although, to be fair, I did play the game on hard difficulty, and I did spend a good amount of time up close next to a tree, hiding behind it from various enemies. This, once again, is not something that you need to enjoy the game, but it's cool to see the technology in action, and I hope to see more extra effects like this on more things in more games as we advance into the next console generation, and as PC games continue to push with extra effects like this. So there you guys have it. If you can avoid those technical issues and you have a PC powerful enough to really crank up the detail and resolution in Far Cry 4, it really is a great looking PC game. On top of this, the overall world gameplay is a definite improvement over Far Cry 3, and co-op is a blast as well, if it does suffer from a lot of desync. Despite Joel's game stutter issues, we did play quite a few hours of co-op, and that alone was worth the purchase price of the game. I mean, we spent the whole time doing ridiculous stunts, rocking through enemy camps, laughing the whole time. It was really what you want in a co-op experience, over the top and a non-stop train of fun. The constant barrage of things that the game throws at you to pay attention to is a bit more tolerable in co-op, as you do have two people to take them on. So there you guys have it. That's why I think anybody who enjoys a good open world FPS is doing themselves a disservice by not checking out Far Cry 4. And no, this video is not sponsored by Ubisoft in any kind of way, or nVidia for that matter. I'm just someone who enjoys PC games, and when I enjoy something, I like to share it with you guys. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you all next time.